everyone, I'm Paige Abbott, registered psychologist with Sana Psychological, and this is the second part of my Practical Steps series. I've been described, and I would also describe myself as a pretty practical and pragmatic person, and that's why I thought I would do a series of videos just introducing you to some starter steps to help you reach the goals that you have, whether that's mental health related, physical health related, relationship-wise, work-wise, whatever it happens to be. This series is designed to support you in kind of setting up a realistic plan and also establishing what the real issues are. And that's actually the topic of today's Practical Steps series video, is identifying the problem or problems. And I know that may seem a little bit odd maybe to have as the second step. Last video I talked about establishing a foundation and a plan, and may seem a little bit counterintuitive to people that that would be step number one. Most people would think, well, don't I need to know what the problem is before I can figure out the plan? Sure, maybe, but I'm introducing my thoughts and my approach, which is let's just build a foundation so that as you really start to explore and identify what the problem or the problems are, then you have that foundation of support to fall back on. And in identifying the problems that you're struggling with, it also can help you refine that realistic plan and that health plan that you are starting to develop after the first video. So how do we really start to identify the problem? Well, when I mean identify the problem, I'm not just talking about identifying the symptoms or the challenges that you're having. Usually that's fairly clear to people, but it is important to start identifying what are the problems and the barriers that are preventing you from reaching the goal or the goals that you have. So what are the obstacles that come up along the way? These may be external obstacles, so who are the people who may be not very supportive or very encouraging, maybe who are enabling of the original symptoms and challenges to continue? What are some of the other obstacles that you encounter? Probably a lot of them are internal. It is important to start to identify what are the things that your brain is telling you as you're trying to take some steps of change. What are the stories? What is it saying? And how is it trying to hold you back? Because the reality is that the part of our brain that feeds off of dopamine and adrenaline, excuse me, and some of those feel-good chemicals, it's getting reinforcement from whatever behavior you are caught in. So there's a big part of your brain that doesn't want change. So it's important to pay attention to that part of the brain and learn how it is trying to throw you off course and through what means. So paying attention to your inner dialogue, the so-called excuses and justifications and rationalizations that you're providing or hearing from your brain that are encouraging you to kind of stay put or to start to slide back into old patterns and old behaviors. Some of these may sound like the brain being quote-unquote lazy, and I hear that from people a lot. They think, well, I'm just a lazy person, or I don't want this bad enough. I don't believe in either of those statements. I think that fundamentally people do have energy and passion and drive when they're healthy, when they're well, and also when it's something that they are engaged with and wanting to accomplish. And I also don't believe that, this whole business that we are just naturally, like our personality is that we're procrastinators or lazy. Fundamentally, if there's something that we want to accomplish, we'll go after it. But we can encounter challenges from our brain, the part that wants to stay put and wants to keep promoting the problem that we're stuck in along the way. So paying attention to the obstacles, external obstacles, as well as those internal obstacles is going to be key. Because as you do that, so as you start to notice, okay, I had a goal to journal a couple of times this week, and I did it once, but then any other time I thought about it, my brain came up with this story that this is lame, I don't want to do this, what's the point? Those are important things to pay attention to. Do you actually believe that? Do you believe it's lame? Well, often people will say, actually, no, like I really enjoyed it and I found it helpful. Great, that's good to know. So hopefully then you can kind of encourage yourself when you're hearing that part of your brain that's trying to hold you back. You can say, no, I am going to make a point of going to journal. I know that it's my brain that's trying to keep me stuck, but I'm not going to listen to that. So thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to do this anyway. So identifying the problem also may mean paying attention to the other behaviors and substances and things that are creating some obstacles or roadblocks for you. That may be people, that may be internal dialogue, but it may also be other behaviors that are not the primary things you're trying to change or move away from, but that are counterproductive to your goals. So somebody, for instance, who's trying to move away from an unhealthy relationship, but is continuing to use substances and food for escape and relief, is going to have a harder time moving away from that relationship because their clarity, their emotional readiness, their relationship with themselves may not be at a point that's going to support them with those relationship boundaries and goals. So also paying attention to those factors is a really important one. All of these things are part of the so-called problem, which can obviously help you to move towards the solution, which is healthy living and building that ongoing recovery and health plan that will need to be modified and tailored depending on what you're noticing coming up in terms of those obstacles. Hopefully this makes sense. I know that it can be a little bit confusing as we start to get into this, and for this step you will definitely need some additional support. You'll need some extra pairs of eyes on kind of your life, your situation, what's going on. So this is where it can be helpful to pull in a professional. It can be helpful to talk to a doctor, a registered psychologist, or another counselor. Can be helpful to talk to friends. If you're in a support group, talking to the people there, either in the group format or in some one-on-one conversations, because we're not always going to be able to see what the obstacles and the barriers are. We're going to need some feedback and we're going to need some support. So make sure that you're trying to write this stuff down, journaling about it, making some notes, taking some time to actively reflect and kind of evaluate what's working and what's not working for you, and what are some of the obstacles coming up along the way, but also checking that out and getting feedback from other people is a really helpful step. And just a reminder that self-help and kind of personal management work that you're doing is a great step, but it's not a substitute for professional support. If you are really struggling with mental and emotional health symptoms, I would strongly encourage you to seek out some support in your local area so that you can get some extra guidance to help move you forward in your journey. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you'll subscribe to the channel and get some notifications. I still have some other videos in this practical step series that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. Take care.